Welcome, family. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on Instagram. Welcome everybody tonight to my Maintaining My Crown followers. I hope everyone saw the post that tonight we're not talking about hair. Tonight, I'm having a special guest and a special conversation. So, I'm going to give everybody a minute to join, and then we're going to start the discussion for tonight. I hope everyone saw it. It's going to be amazing, I think. So, welcome on Instagram tonight. Welcome on Facebook. Hey, thank you for joining. So, I don't know on Instagram to my friend, I don't know if you saw the other night. I actually spoke Spanish to one of the followers based on her name. I did speak in Spanish, so you got to give me kudos for that. I hope you caught it. So everybody, welcome. I'm going to bring in my guest now. Debbie, if you can hear me, you should have an invite to join. So please go ahead and you can come into the live. So everyone saw hey cousin. I hope everyone saw the notice. Tonight we're going to have a special conversation on the pandemic, COVID-19, the pandemic, and the spiritual journey that we've been on. So good evening on Instagram. Welcome everybody, come in. Nice to see you tonight, cousin. She's going to be live with us on screen in a moment. So tonight we're going to be talking about her journey. She had COVID-19. So she's going to tell her experience with that. And then we're going to be talking about our spiritual journey over the course of the pandemic, because we have connected and we are now prayer partners. And hey Nick, good evening. The relationship that we have, what God has done in the midst of the pandemic has been amazing. And so I just wanted to bring her on and have this conversation, because I think right now everybody knows pretty much somebody, I would think, that has died from COVID-19. And so I think that this is an important topic. There are a lot of people that are dealing with stress. There are a lot of people who are unemployed, people who don't really know what they're going to do. And so the outlet for her and I right now, it has been an increase and a shift in our prayer life. And so good evening, Laura. It's just been an amazing journey. So while she comes on, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who she is. She's an author. We grew up together in the same town. She's a little bit younger than I am, so we weren't necessarily friends, but we knew who each other were. She was best friends with my next door neighbor, so I saw her a lot coming and going. And I, like those of you that know a little bit about me, know I like to pray and fast. So I am undeniably a woman of God. I'm going to bring her in. She is too. And so I feel that we have had what I'm going to call a divine connection. And so we have reunited. She volunteered to be my prayer partner. My fasting partner. I had put up a note saying that I wanted to fast. Yes, I know, Robin. She just told me, I just found out recently that my guest tonight and my first cousin, who also grew up in the same neighborhood with me, they actually lived together for a while. I didn't know that until about a week ago. Debbie just told me that. So that's very interesting. I had no idea of the relationship. But I had put up a note one day saying I wanted to go on a fast, and did anybody want to fast with me? And she, excuse me, I'm just accepting her request to come in. She offered to go on a fast with me, and that's really how the relationship started.
Hello.
So welcome everybody. This is Debbie Williams.
Hello,
This is my friend, my
friend.
prayer partner, and her son Malachi. Hey Malachi, I look a lot different, don't I, than what you saw an hour ago. So we tested the camera, you guys. I have to be fully transparent, and I came out here like busted, hair
Not
a
at
mess,
all.
shirt on. I'm eating ice cream while we're testing the cameras, but I had to pull it together to come on tonight. So welcome, good to have you. I'm just still kind of giving the intro, and my cousin Robin is on Instagram, and she just commented that you guys used to live together. So see if you can join on Instagram. All right, let me see it. Let me see. We didn't test this, you guys.
Malika, Instagram, please.
What's your name on Instagram,
Ooh,
Debbie?
the Deborah Williams.
All right, let me see if I can get you on here. Here you go. All right, so I just sent you a request to join me on Instagram.
Let's see if we can do that.
She's not up on Instagram yet, Robin. So your cousin, I think this is your cousin, Elizabeth.
Yes, she is. Hey,
yes,
Liz.
okay. So hi, Elizabeth.
Hello.
She is with us on Facebook. So this is
We're
nice.
trying to get Instagram up. Hold on.
So did you get the request yet for Instagram?
Malachi's my technician is working.
Oh, you're lucky I'm here by myself trying to do it all. But welcome, Trina. So let me just give you a little bit while we try to get the cameras set up. Those of you who were new, thank you. Thank you for everybody who came in from Debbie's page. I'm usually here live Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. I run a natural hair blog called Maintaining My Crown. And so this is my usual time slot where I come on every week and I talk to, okay, it says the Deborah Williams is unable to join.
Oh, okay.
On Instagram. I don't know why. Oh, but then it says I'm in, but I see a comment saying you're in, but I don't see, like, it didn't let you in on the screen. So let's try it. Let me see if I can request you again.
Okay. Keep going, Malachi. He's looking at you on Instagram.
No, it won't even let me request you again. It just says unable to join.
Oh boy.
I don't know. Maybe he can Malachi, can you disconnect and try to reconnect? But anyway, sorry, you guys, I'm here every Sunday night, 8 o'clock. I run a natural hair blog called Maintaining My Crown. But ever so often, I like to switch it up and bring on guests with me, talk about different topics. So tonight's topic is COVID-19, the pandemic, and I forgot the rest of the title. But we wanted to talk about our spiritual journey. So personally, I believe we have what I call a divine connection. Right. I believe that God connected us for this time and this season for a purpose. And so tonight we're going to talk about her experience with COVID-19, how life has changed for us and for everybody during the pandemic, and how we've had to shift and what the impact has done, the different ways that we've had to modify the way that we live. The biggest change for myself, I'm going to say, is my spiritual walk. And we'll go through that, you know, as we go through your story, Debbie, with COVID-19, and we get into it. But I think this is going to be interesting. She is now my prayer partner. So back in January, at the beginning of the year, I always do a fast in the month of January to start the year off, either with a church or by myself. And again, she was the person who volunteered to go on a fast with me. So when we fast together, she'll call me in the morning and we will pray. And when we fasted together. I don't know, when did we fast together for the first time?
Oh, probably in the summer or the beginning of
2020 was the first time, you think? Okay. So she would call me and we would pray quickly, and we would yes, Robin, we are on Facebook on my Allison page. So she would call me in the morning and we would pray when we were fasting, and we would just pray a quick prayer and go on about our day. But this time in January, we were praying 5 a.m. in the morning, and it was amazing because we didn't just pray for 10 minutes and get off the phone. We on the phone.
Hours.
Hours. We were on the phone literally at 5. You don't see my live on Facebook? Hold on. I see people on there, Robin. So you gotta let me just double check. There were people on my Allison page, Robin. So it's definitely up. Yeah, I see myself, Robin. So check it out. But 5 o'clock in the morning, she will call me. She's very prompt. Hey, Barbara, thank you for joining. She's very prompt and punctual, which is one of the things that I really liked about having her as my prayer partner, because you never backed down and you never backed out. She never conked out in the middle. She never disappeared midway. She stuck it through. She was very prompt. If she said, I'm going to call you at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock, she was on the phone. And so anytime she's willing to pray and fast with me, I'm all about it. I'm in. So this time in January, she would call me. We said, we're going to do 5 a.m. prayer. And we would sit on the phone for 2 hours in the morning, and we would just talk about everything and anything. And so through that, we developed a very nice relationship. And we have been trying to figure out what exactly I believe we have an assignment to do. And so we've been trying to really hone in on our assignment. And I believe that this is part of our assignment. So I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. We're going to get into the discussion tonight. Again, the discussion is COVID-19, the pandemic, and how our lives have changed through the course of the pandemic. All right. So I'm going to let you take it over from here, Debbie. You can share your experience with having COVID-19.
Okay. Well, first, Malachi, I think he's getting
Malachi
on.
_does_.
And it's on Malachi does the will.
I see him over here. It says, this is my account. Mom is going to join. So let's.
I click requested already.
Okay.
All right. So I think I just accepted it, Malachi. Do you see it?
Okay. Yes. All right.
Okay.
Now,
all right. So let
do
me
I have
see.
to have that camera
I don't
on?
see you coming in yet.
Do I have to have that camera on me? Turn audio on.
I see Malachi.
Turn the audio off.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, wow.
All right. So let me see. Maybe I'm going to turn my volume down because I'm hearing you out of both phones. All right. So let's get into your story and your experience with COVID-19.
Well, COVID-19 was interesting because there was I don't know which camera to look at now, but several of my family members, we had it across the country. And for me, it was very interesting because it was like the flu, but longer. And everyone had a different experience with it, all of my family members. First, I want to thank God because across the country, there were about 29 of us that had it. Everyone had a different experience with it, but every last one of us came through.
All right, hold on one second, Debbie. They're saying that there is an echo.
It might be
I don't know. I don't know. Hi on Instagram. Thank you for joining. We're still just trying to work out the technical issues because I'm running Facebook. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Maybe she should turn the volume off on one. Can Instagram, I turned my volume down. Can you tell me, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Malachi, come for a minute, please.
Debbie, turn your volume off on one of your, not on this device. Maybe turn the volume down on Instagram.
The volume is off on Instagram.
It won't turn down.
All right, you guys.
It only lets.
Oh, I know what it is. It's probably the computer. Turn the computer off. Hold on, please.
The volume's off on this.
Okay, so you can hear me on Instagram. Do you still hear the echo, Robin? You still hear the echo?
It's because this iPad won't let you turn it down all the way off. It just lets you, even if I try to turn it down, it just lets one bar still stay up.
I hear it. I hear him like five times. I'm not really sure. I don't know.
So turn the volume up there, and I'll turn it off on the phone. Hold on, everyone. Sorry about this.
Oh, better.
Okay, how are
Thank
you
you,
now?
Elizabeth. Thank you for joining on Facebook. I'm sorry, we're just trying to get the sound right so that there's not an echo bothering.
Okay, are you still hearing an echo?
We're on Facebook and Instagram.
Are you still hearing an echo now? Allison,
I hear you. I hear you twice through Facebook.
All right, I might have to turn Instagram off. Let's see, because I'm hearing myself twice.
You are too, right? All right. I don't want to lose Instagram. So if you want to drop off of Instagram, I'll just show me and we'll see if that's
Okay,
better.
hold on. Let me
Hi,
turn the volume
Jackie.
on. Hi, Jackie. That's my cousin.
You hear twice through. Robin saying she's hearing it twice through
Okay, I'm gonna turn
Instagram.
Instagram off. Turn it off.
All right, so she's gonna come off Instagram. We're gonna see what happens.
Okay.
Maybe that will fix it. I'm sorry. Hey, Malachi. I'm sorry because I really want them to see you on both, but that's okay. I think the last time I did it, I had somebody, we were on Instagram and we were on Facebook, and she was only showing herself on Instagram,
Okay.
and then we just had the audio of her on Facebook. So maybe I can't have two people on
Okay.
two platforms. Every week when I'm on here, I'm on three platforms. I always have three
And it
cameras in
works.
front of me. And it's
Okay.
fine. There's no echo, so it's something I have to figure it out. There's got to be something with the playback when I have
Okay.
guests on.
So I'll
Okay, so I'm
continue.
sorry. You finished your
The
story.
one.
Is that better, Robin? Tell me if the echo is gone. It should be gone now.
Okay, so with look, there's so many different remedies for COVID. So one person says garlic, person says this or another, different herbs. We didn't do a lot of meds and things of that nature. But the one thing at the end of the day, no matter what you do, the end all is that the healer is God. That's it. I mean, one of my brothers went through it pretty rough, where he had pneumonia, his swelling on the brain, he lost the use of his arms and hands. But we were just reading those scriptures aloud, those healing scriptures, praying over him, reading, telling him to read. His wife would read over him. That's you do what you know to do, and God is a healer. That's just the bottom line. No matter what you take, at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, He's it. And
Amen.
so, but I did learn a lot during that experience. With you have to drink lots of water. The
I have heard that. I have heard people say drinking a lot of water made a big difference just in the course of 24 to 48
yes,
hours.
and what happens is
that it really was a
for us, I didn't want to drink water because water actually tastes nasty, and I like water, but during the first couple of days of COVID, I realized I hadn't drank anything. And then I learned later that when you're dehydrated, when your taste buds are dry, you can't taste anything. So I think, and I can't prove it because I don't want COVID again to prove it, but I think that if you drink, you don't lose your sense of taste. Because again, I learned just scientifically from my son's homework that you can only taste when you're hydrated. And other than that, you lose it. But back to and actually during that whole process, we have family members praying, like Liz, Jackie, and they're in New York, and family members all over the place. We were just praying, and then we get a prayer request come in. Remember Allison? Somebody would say so-and-so,
yes.
And we'd be praying and praying people through. Because when you can't pray for yourself, it's good to know somebody else is doing it. When you feel like there's this weight on your chest from the illness, and you don't know what to do, and you can get a little frightened. It's good to hear somebody say, girl, I'm praying for you, or brother, I'm praying, because it can be scary. But let me tell you.
How were your symptoms, Debbie? I'm
my
sorry, I didn't talk over you. Tell us about your symptoms.
I felt like the day or so before Thanksgiving, I just felt tired and didn't know why. And then I realized that I had COVID, mainly because my brother said he had it, one of my brothers, and I had just seen him like 2 days prior to tell him goodbye because I was leaving North Carolina to come back to California. But once I realized he had COVID, I was like, that's what this is. So I just stayed put on the East Coast. But it was just very lethargic, and then I had a tickle in the back of my throat. I always had to clear my throat. And then I think my mother she was going through the similar things. None of us had a fever except for my son for about 2 hours, and that was it. He had a rash, and that was it. But then after that, I couldn't get out the bed. And everything, there was no desire for food, and nothing tastes right, because the first 2 days I didn't drink anything. And then once I realized, I started to have pain in my kidneys because I was dehydrated. So then at that point I just started drinking, because I knew that what that pain was, and that would have nothing to do with COVID. If you don't drink, your body's going to respond to it. So I just continued to drink. I didn't like drinking, but I slept in my mother's bed, and so she'd have 8 bottles of water next to her, and then I'd have 8 bottles of water next to me. And of course, she drank more than I did. I drank like 6 bottles, 7 bottles every night. And then the daytime, you drink. And I always felt like it was an extended version of the flu for me. My mother's 76, 76, and she was better off than I was. She healed before I did. She was up and about the first week. She probably shouldn't have been, because she got a little sluggish about 2 weeks in. But for 3 weeks, I was in the bed, just eating pineapples, which are higher in vitamin C than oranges. So I had pineapple every day for breakfast and maybe for lunch, and then that was really it. And but again, the main staple was prayer, and that word, you reading back those Bible scriptures about healing, and just believing. Look, if God can just heal a blind person, all that, what is COVID? He said at his name every knee shall bow. And I was like, COVID, you're gonna bow to this one. And I'm thankful that all of my family members came through. I'm thankful for the season of prayer that we had. And I also appreciate life all the more now, because.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an eye opener. I have to be honest, and I'm very grateful. I'm thankful. I only know of, I'm not going to say that there aren't more people in my family that have had COVID, but I am only aware of one family member that had COVID last summer, and she had it pretty bad. She was really, really sick. But other than that, my family has been able to my knowledge, has been able to come through it. But I will say, what I have learned from this is, in terms of my spiritual walk, now you share your prayer requests with me and my family. We have our own prayer chain. There are several of us on it, and we will share prayer requests, and we share scriptures and things like that, words of encouragement. But for myself, one of the ways that the pandemic and this whole thing has changed my spiritual journey is that it has taught me to pray more and to pray differently.
Yeah.
So I don't pray so much in terms of things for myself, material gain and things like that. I have now learned to open up my prayer life to cover my bloodline. So, before, where I might have said I cover, I'm covering my children, I'm covering my parents, and a smaller circle. Now I cover my bloodline everywhere, my maternal bloodline, my paternal bloodline. I cover from the oldest to the youngest. So the way that I pray has definitely changed, and I've broadened it to start to cover a lot more people. So it has taken the focus off of myself, and then it has made me more diligent, because before, I always pray, but I would pray sporadically, or I would pray a shorter amount of time. And so now I'm more focused on making sure that I get in a good hour of prayer, and then I got to a point where I was getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And for a season, I was setting my clock to make sure I wanted to pray. I was trying to pray strategically, and you and I spoke about the concept of the different prayer watches, and in the Bible, you hear them talk about the fourth prayer watch. Jesus prayed, I believe, during the fourth prayer watch. And so I was strategic, you know, like I like to pray at midnight. I like to pray when the new day is breaking. That's one time. I like to pray between like that 2:30, 3 o'clock. So you're going from the third prayer watch into the fourth prayer watch. So I was setting my clock to get up somewhere between 2:30, 2:45, so that I could be in prayer going from 2:30 to 3 o'clock. And then sometimes if I could not get up, if I was tired, then I would make sure that I was trying to pray, you know, get my prayer time in around 5 o'clock in the morning. So it has really strengthened my spiritual walk. And I'm really, just to be 100% transparent, when I come on here and I do these talks, whether I'm talking about here or I'm talking about another topic, I'm always transparent. Let me just say that. And then I never script anything. So when I come on, I pray, and this is the truth, whether I'm talking about hair or, you know, I've done several of these where I talk about the power of your word, soul ties. I cover different spiritual topics from time to time. I just pray that whatever I say, I let the Holy Spirit lead me, and then I go. I literally press play, I start it, and then it is what it is. So I'm very transparent. You know, my prayer life has always been stronger than my reading of the word. And so that is something,
they go hand in hand.
Easier for me.
They go hand in hand too.
They should. They should go hand in hand. But for me, it was easy for me to pray and fast. But for me to actually sit down with my Bible and open it and read the word, not so much. I'm quicker to put on YouTube and put on the audio Bible than I am to actually sit and read it. Now, I will say years ago, I was more into the Bible, reading the Bible, than I was into prayer. But it is reversed. And now I'm trying to get them to go hand in hand. Right. So like now we talked about this. The other thing that we're doing is we're trying to be strategic in our use of our time and our day. And so I have bought myself 3 different planners, right? I have the big desk planner and I have the binder. But now I'm trying to be strategic because I'm trying to journal. That's another thing. Another way that my life has changed during this is to be more intentional and cognizant of your use of time. Because when you start to realize, now the pandemic broke out in 2020. So September of 2019, I was listening to a Facebook Live. And the minister said in September of 2019, he was telling everybody to cover your family in prayer. He said, from now until December 31st, you need to cover your family. He said, because people are just going to be here one day and gone the next. And this is before anybody heard about COVID. COVID was not a thing. But he had already seen something, but he was just saying, he said, if you don't cover your family, you're going to wake up and it's not going to be that they were sick. It's not going to be that they were in the hospital and then they didn't survive whatever the illness was. He was like, people are just going to literally, you're going to see them. They're going to be here. And then the next, you know, they're going to
We're seeing that. So many deaths that happened were not COVID at all. But I want to backtrack real quick to address Liz. Liz says you come out of it ready to do the work of God. And Liz, that's so true. When you see the brevity of life, and then you see the need, not just COVID alone, but what's going on culturally, you're like, you know what, God, what am I supposed to do? What's my role? Because I need to do something. You know, I can't just sit back and talk about it because people are dropping off like flies. And because you can see that the enemy is busy. So now what do? Because you got to do something. We just can't sit back and watch the media. We have to go with an offensive strategy. We can't be on a defense.
Absolutely. That's right, Elizabeth. No time to waste. And one thing that I constantly pray for is strategies. You know, before I was praying for strategies for myself in terms of career, but now I try to be strategic in everything. I always ask for direction. I always ask and pray to be in divine alignment. You know, I always pray show me what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. What is my assignment? What is my purpose? You know, because you start to realize, like when COVID broke out, I didn't even realize, I didn't know that 2 doors down, the husband and wife both passed away
Wow.
a week apart. You know, I missed the whole thing, being locked in the house. I didn't even know that the ambulance had come and gotten both of them the same day, and they never came back home.
Wow.
And these are people, and this is literally 2 doors down from me, and you know where I
Yeah.
live. I was seeing them every single day. I used to put my grandson on the bus every morning, and the bus stop is across the street from their house. So they were still going to work up until the pandemic. And so I would see them every morning to say good morning on their way to work. And then we got locked in, and all of a sudden I see on Facebook that they were no more. And so you know, you can kind of, I guess the one thing for me I have to be careful of is being stuck in here is being detached in a way, because I don't have my TV on, I don't have my radio on. So I'm kind of in a bubble. So it's good and bad. It's good in that my focus is really on praying and being intentional in everything that I do. And I didn't want any more of the distractions. I turned my TV off in June or July of 2018 on a fast. And I had no desire, when I came out of the fast, that was part of the requirement of the fast, was to turn your TV off. I had no desire to put my TV back on.
Yes.
And so it's 3 years later, my TV is still not on. Right? So I get my news, whatever little bit of news I get, I'm getting it if somebody tells me to put on the news, or I'm getting it off of feeds when I go online, but I'm not sitting in front of the TV anymore because I didn't want that distraction. But, you know, so I have to be careful in that regard, that I don't lose touch with the bigger picture of what's going on. But I'm trying to be very strategic and focused. And so I've taken on really a position of intercession.
You know,
really.
I find that you can, in this world we live in now, it's easy to be detached even when you're out in the public, because you have to stay 6 feet apart. You can't see the smiles, which is, you know, when you back a year, little over a year ago, and you'd see somebody, you'd see them smile, you didn't even have to know them. It just was a warm feeling, welcoming. Right. You don't see smiles anymore. Right. You look into eyes now and see if there's a smile there. That's damaging to your psyche. So we have to be grounded to be able to withstand it. Now, the real issue is those people who are not grounded, who live alone, who have no one to talk to, who may be going through more than just a financial crisis, but an emotional crisis. Those are the ones, when we hear of them, we have to we pray, but then we reach out somehow. Because people are slipping away mentally, emotionally. And that's damaging.
Yeah, you do. You hear a lot about depression.
Believers,
right? A lot of people are going into
believers are going through depression. And if believers are doing it, imagine the people who don't know the Lord. What are they going through? That's got to be just a dark period in people's life. We're in a dark phase now, but the good thing is, and I always go back to the good thing, is that God is doing a new thing in this season. I know it. He's not sitting back. He's not biting his nails. He knew this was going to be here. He ordained every last one of us for this season. You know, he knew I couldn't have been around in America in 1792. So he put me right in. You know, I'm here for a reason.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I have made that statement to another friend of mine who was a minister, and we get on the phone and pray, and we talk about the fact of, you know, where we are in terms of the end times. And I said, you know, think about that. How amazing is it to know, for those of us that are believers, to know that you were deliberately born in this time, right? Like that you
Esther,
weren't born
for such a time as this.
Correct. to know that your birth was planned in the earth for this
Mm-hmm.
time. So it's important for us to start to realize or start to try to understand what our calling is, what our purpose is. God is not asleep.
That's
I agree
right,
with
Liz.
Debbie,
That's right.
with God's timing for us. I think it's amazing, because for God to put you in the earth at this time to endure what we endure means that he has equipped you to do it,
Mm.
right? That he thought you were
But,
up for the
but
challenge. You were up for the
yeah, but
job.
Allison, excuse
So
me. I'm sorry. You just said something that made me think of something. You know, I think everyone on this call is of African descent. And he put us on this earth for this time, and if we can endure. But imagine, so we got COVID going on, and the racial concerns and all that. But go back 200 years, and what was their concern? But they endured. We would be so, just for lack of a better word, like, who do we think we are that we would bite our nails and be scared when our ancestors went through what they went through, death, disease, abuse, everything, and we're running scared. And then also, we've got people talking about, they're afraid of this and other. Like, if I was talking to some Christians not long ago, and they were saying, if I saw somebody sick, I would move the other way because I don't want to catch it. Well, you know what? I don't see anywhere in the Bible where Jesus covered up when he walked past these lepers. He went in. So we can't run. As on the spiritual side, we can't run, but then just on the human side, look what our ancestors endured. This is nothing. And if we as Black people would wrap our heads around that, we can move forward without fear. And that's right, Liz. These are light afflictions.
they're light afflictions, and right. You're absolutely right about that. And we don't think about
Mm-hmm.
that, when you to stop and think of what our ancestors endured,
We got it
you're
easy.
right. Walking through dealing with a virus is
Mm-hmm.
nothing in comparison to what they
Mm-hmm.
went through. But the other thing, just to talk about what we're doing physically to be able to withstand the virus, the other shift that I have made is in terms of my supplements and my diet, my
Mm-hmm.
eating. So I take my vitamin D3 every day. I take zinc. I take, oh my goodness, what's the other one? The D3, the zinc, the vitamin C. I have all kinds of things. I've got elderberry supplements. I have, you name it, I have it. I have mushroom supplements. Oh, and I drink the ginger tea every day. I boil fresh ginger with cinnamon. And I have some cinnamon tea bags and ginger tea bags that I boil with it, and I simmer it on the stove. So every day I take ginger. I have water, a pitcher of water in the refrigerator with ginger in it. I'm taking a lot of things that are known to be anti-inflammatory, and then things to boost your immune system. And I'm eating a lot more fresh vegetables, raw
Yeah.
vegetables. I've tried to come off a lot of the sugar, cut back drastically on the meat. The one area where personally I have not been up to par is the exercise.
And that's a little difficult because
So
you can't go to the gym anymore. And then it's cold and
right.
you want to
And
be
so for
outside
me,
walking.
right. So for where I am, we had snow on the ground a lot. We've had a couple of snowstorms. And I love to work out. Prior to the pandemic, I was in the gym a good 4 days a week. I was in the gym working out 90 minutes a day, 4 days a week. And now I've been in the house for a year. I'm not so great at working out in the house. I tried walking in the morning with my sister for an hour. We did that until the weather got too cold to do that. And so for me personally, even though I have tried to change my diet a little bit, I've packed on a good 20 pounds, and well, I'm good for a good 20 pounds regardless a lot of times, right? Like I'm not a person that has been able to manage their weight, and I'm honest about that. I've had weight issues since I was 12 years old. So my weight is up, I'm down. I might be thin this week, and next week I'm, 30 pounds overweight. That's how it goes with me. But it's been hard in the pandemic because I'm not really that great about just working out in the house. I like to be in the gym. I like to be on the treadmill. I like to be on the elliptical. I like to lift weights and do those kind of things. You're with me? So, and I like to eat. So for one, to be honest, one of the things for me was I went to the gym. I enjoy it, but I went to the gym to be able to eat. And so, if there's got to be a balance and a payoff, I would rather do the time in the gym and eat what I want than to have to cut down and not eat what I want. Now, I'm not saying to be a glutton and eat a whole bunch of junk food and kill your body that way. I'm not talking about that. But I enjoy a piece of cake. I enjoy brownies. I don't have the best metabolism. I've had thyroid issues. So it's nothing for me to put on weight. So, for me, I found that going to the gym was a way for me to balance the two, to be physically fit and eat the food that I want and not have to worry about packing on the weight all the time. So having to sit in the house for a year has been, that's been my challenge. Yeah, right? Like March was when the shutdown happened last year. So we're coming up on the 1 year mark of being in the house.
What an anniversary.
So I know.
What an anniversary.
I know. But, I have to say, I am so fortunate that I did not get sick, because when the pandemic happened, I was working a part-time job at night for play money in retail. And the store that I was working at was, I think, the hot spot in this region. I think they had the highest numbers at one point. They were definitely way up there. And the volume of people that I had to interact with, and I'm, 3 feet away from, in the middle of this, I didn't know that I was kind of like in the epicenter of this virus, because we didn't know what it was at that point. And I had gotten sick. And, in hindsight, I'm like, that could have been COVID, because nobody knew. And then a couple of weeks later, the stores all shut down. So that could have, I'm on Long Island, Elizabeth. That could have been COVID, because one of the women working with me, she was sick to the point where she said she was sick for 3 weeks. And she said she was actually crawling on the floor in her home. She was that sick. So we started talking about it after the pandemic and the shutdown. And, we said, wow, we don't know, that could have been COVID. For me, it was a bad cold. For really it was a 3-week journey of really being sick. So you don't know, but I count my blessings that, if that was COVID, that was all it was for me, was, a 4 or 5 day cold, and then I was done. So
as you speak, there's a song that comes to mind. It's an old Andre Crouch song. It says, through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, I've learned to depend upon his word. And, though everything that's going on around us, I'm like, you know what, God, I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you for my family. I'm trusting you for my health. I'm trusting you for my financial well-being, because I've not worked in a long time, and some years now. And I'm amazed at my bills are paid, just, I lack nothing. And
well, that was one of the things. Sorry, not to cut you off, but that was one of the things that we had in common, right? Because I had gotten laid off. I was in the house, other than the little part-time job I had for some play money. I was in the same position. I was in the house, I had gotten laid off, and I had made a deliberate choice not to go back to work immediately. I wanted some time to myself, and just after working all your life, I just wanted some me time. And so I never went back into full-time work either. And that was when I think about the way God put us together and the
Mm-hmm.
similarities, you start to realize it was not by accident.
Mm-hmm.
It was not by accident that he put us together at that particular time. And we're like-minded, and we were on the same path spiritually, trying to do the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
to increase our prayer life and to be able to hear from God clearly,
Mm-hmm.
consistently, right? And so I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you, but yeah,
Divine
right,
connection.
Elizabeth, and I said this earlier. This absolutely nobody. I am convinced beyond convinced. This was absolutely a divine
That's right.
connection. And one thing that I've become clear on is that God will bring people into your life at a certain
Yeah.
time, and God will remove people from your life at a certain time, right? And so I think that this was the time where he was doing something in your life, doing something in my life, that he brought us together for a bigger purpose. And I think like this is one of the purposes of bringing us together, to have conversations like this, for whether you're a believer or not a believer, but to hear our stories and our
Mm-hmm.
belief and our faith and how it has sustained
That's
us
right.
and gotten us through,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So what do you tell
Because,
someone who doesn't know the Lord during these times? How about that? And you see all that's going on. What do you say to someone who, because they're broken. People are scared.
yeah, and you're right. You have believers whose faith has now been
Yes.
shaken, because when you look at the number of people in the church alone, the number of bishops who have passed
Yes.
away, it's
You
it's very
question that,
frightening,
right?
and it absolutely will cause your faith to absolutely be shaken. But the thing that you have to
In
stand
Christ
firm
is
on is
solid.
that you have to
Yeah.
know there is God will take the broken pieces of our life and turn it around and use
That's
it for
right.
good. So one of the scriptures I always stand on, Romans 8:28, right? All things work together for your good. And you have to start to realize, even my layoff, I now look and I say, God, you start, for me, I start to balance or think about corporate America and the money versus where I am now, and you don't have that
Yes.
amount of money coming in anymore, right? That will play with you alone, right? But then I stop and I think and I say, you know what? If I was still in corporate America making that money, my mind would be so far on that money, my mind
Yes.
would not be where it
Yes.
is. So what would I rather? Do I want the money, or do I want to
Peace.
be in his
Peace.
purpose? And I'm like you, I have been out, I do work full time now, but the whole time I wasn't working full time, my nephew, I love you, not a bill was late.
That's right.
I didn't have a late bill, and I didn't have a missed
You
bill,
know, you know what I find?
right? And I still tithe, I still tithe, and I still pay my
Mhm.
offerings, all through not having a full time, income coming in. I didn't fall off on my tithes, and my bills are paid, and everything is taken care of. So I'm just going to answer your question. What would I say to, I'm going to talk about the believer first. What would I say to a believer, is you have to hold on. You have to hold on. You have to be steadfast, right? Steadfast,
You know that
unmovable.
word.
Um, you have to. I think prayer is my place of peace.
That's right. That conversation with
I think in the middle of the night, when I am up walking the floor, I'm a person, I walk and I pray. I am so comforted in my time in my prayer closet. And what is the scripture where, the scripture says, come into your house and shut the door, right?
hmm
For a period of time, where we are in the pandemic right now, until it passes over. That's where I am. And I rest in that. And so I know a woman who attended the church that I used to go to. I want to say maybe she was in her 30s. I didn't know her too well, But she happened to come into the store one night when I was working retail, and I spoke to her. And I always saw her with 3 little children. She was in church with her parents. Her parents appear to be in their 70s, and it was her sister and the little kids. The whole family got COVID. The parents survived. The sister survived, and unfortunately, she did not. That she, to me, could have been the youngest out of everybody that had COVID, but she was the one that did not survive. And so you can't question the bigger picture that God has. You know, in that case, it's so easy to say her father, you know, how did somebody who looks like he's about 70, 580, how did he not survive and the young woman, how did he survive and the young woman didn't? How did the mother survive? How did everybody survive? Why was she the only one? And she's the only one I saw with young kids. So why did it have to be the person with the kids? You can't start to question, excuse me, you guys, you can't start to question that. You know, you have to just find peace in the fact that God will still provide, the children will be taken care of. And these things, we don't know the mind of God. We don't always know the bigger picture, but we can't question it. You have to go on and you have to thank God for what you have, not what you don't have, right? Sometimes you get so caught up in what you don't have. You know, it's easy. And so here's another thing that changed for me is my gratitude. Is that when I start out my prayer time, in a moment of in minutes, not a moment, minutes of gratitude, thanking God for my house, thanking God for my car, thanking God for just another day, thanking God that I can breathe, because people with COVID, you know, they have the glass, they say that the glass, it feels like glass in your lungs. They can't breathe. I can do all of these things. So I start my prayer time out thanking God for what I have, not what I don't have. And when you start your day with gratitude, it changes your whole perspective, because you don't start out thinking about, I don't have the mindset of lack. You know, I don't have the mindset of looking at what other people have and thinking, how come I don't have that? I'm grateful now for what I do have. I'm grateful that my mother is 82 and well. I'm grateful, hey neighbor, I'm grateful that my mother is in better, health, it seems, than her 3 daughters. I'm grateful my mother's on the tennis court every day. So, yeah, do I miss the money that I had rolling in? Yeah, but would I rather have my mother alive or the money?
Yeah.
Would I rather have my children alive or the money? You start to put things into perspective.
The bottom line is, can we stand on the word we've been hearing all along? Can we stand? We've been in church, for some of us for months, some of us for years, some for decades, and you've been hearing these sermons all along. Can we now stand on those? And this, I believe, is a period of strengthening. What are we going to be like on the backside of this crisis? What will we be like? Because that's critical. If we collapse now on the other side of crisis, what are we going to do? I firmly believe that we're going to come out of this crisis, and I believe that as believers, we're going to be so much stronger. And we're supposed to be ambassadors for the kingdom. We are supposed to, people are supposed to say, how come you're not scared? I was out walking one time around the Forum. It's like Nassau Coliseum, the parking lot. So I'm walking around, and I saw this woman, and this was at the beginning when you were hearing people dying by the hundreds each day. And she was just so peaceful, and you could only see her eyes, but you could see the peace resting on her. And I was like, she's a believer. And so I said something to her from a distance, and she said, yeah, that's true. I'm standing on the word. And you can see peace, and peace is attractive. And that's what we should be. We should be at peace.
It is.
So what you don't have a job, so what, you might have lost a limb or whatever. He's still God, and he's not scared. And I just need to trust him. And sometimes it's easier said than done, but that's when you hold on, and that's when you call up somebody and say, girl, I need some prayer, because I'm going through today.
Right. Like I texted you the other day, we prayed for focus, right? And we prayed about, for me, I have a problem with procrastination.
Me
And
too.
so we were praying, we were praying about procrastination and being focused. And the minute we prayed for focus, I I had to text her and I said, pray for my focus. All day long, I was trying to do 5 things at once. I never got through one task. The minute I started one task, I was into the second task, into the third task, and I had to catch myself. And I said, what is going on? We prayed for focus and to put an end to the procrastination, and I couldn't finish one task because I started trying to take on my whole to-do list at one time, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And I was in the kitchen and I'm like making a pot of tea. I'm trying to do my ginger. And then next thing you know, I don't even get that finished. And I was in the room doing something else. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What just happened that I can't finish one task? My mind was on everything simultaneously. But that is how the enemy will come at you. Because right when we tried to pinpoint our area of weakness, and we try to target that in prayer, I have never, honestly, in my life, ever felt that scattered where I'm trying to do everything. You know, usually you have a list of things to do, and I'll come in here and I'll get my tea situated. Once my tea is done, I'll go on to next. But in the middle of, let's say, peeling my ginger, I'm in the room doing something else, and then from there I'm here. And I was like, what the heck? And so I wait a minute, I got to stop this. I got to get this under control. And I texted you and I'm like, you got to pray for my focus, because it was crazy. It was absolutely
and it's
crazy.
good to have someone you can call like that and say, hey, or just text or something to say, listen, I'm in a crisis, you know, can you help? Like, I'll have to, you know, do a shout out to my cousin Liz on here, because she's the one that, like, we started out having family prayer, and then I kind of fell off, and then she and some other family members would text me or call and say, listen, we need to get back on it. And Liz, we're going to get back on it again. Because, you know, like your family, Allison, it has blessed us. And we get to connect with people who may feel out of sorts, or people who don't have someone, you know, like when you were saying when you were scattered, you had someone to you know, kind of say, listen, call me and, you know, pray for me. And we have family members that may need that, but if we don't continue this prayer like you guys are doing, we may lose some. And I don't want to see anybody kind of fall off on the wayside, because it's important to stay connected in a disconnected world. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what my sister says every day. My sister says, we are not losing one, not one. We will not have one family member left behind. And that really is the purpose of sending out a scripture. And my mother, God bless her, you know, she has really taken on the meaning and the role of the matriarch. And so she started it by sending us scriptures every morning and just an encouraging word to start the day. And so then the group, you know, it grew. So between my sister and my mother, they really do a good job of giving us encouragement and giving us the word every morning, even if it's something, just something short. Just so that your focus at the beginning of the day is on God, and to put your day in perspective, and to reach out to, you know, my children, my nieces, my nephews, who might not have been in church all the time, just to feed and give them the word, and just to ground them, and to know that the family is there praying for them, that we have your back, you know. And that's important in the spirit realm, to have your family's back. I'm telling you, when this whole thing, when I found out that my cousin had COVID, and I found out a long time after she was well, I heard someone else talking about it. I really made sure that every day I covered my bloodline. And so I can't stress that enough.
How do you cover your bloodline? Tell us.
I pray every day when I say, Lord, I cover my bloodline, and I name every branch of my tree that I can think of. And so my last name is Vaughn. So I say, Lord, I cover the Vaughn bloodline. cover everybody from the oldest to the youngest. My mother's maiden name, her last name is Blackshare. So I say, and I lift up, I cover the Blackshare bloodline from the oldest to the youngest. And I just do that. Even my cousins, you know, their last names, I cover them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just go through every single last name that I can think of. God,
Mm-hmm.
cover everybody. And so you don't want anybody, because I didn't know, you know, and I didn't know my cousin was sick last year, not, you know, and so I would have been interceding for her on a whole nother level had I known she was sick,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so and then, you know, one of my cousins passed away last year, had nothing to do with COVID. I believe he had a brain tumor. And he was very good at calling the family. We didn't know he had a brain tumor, and I don't know that he knew he had a brain tumor. But the way it unfolded was kind of unique. So he would call us all the time. And I remember very clearly, he called me Saturday and I couldn't take the phone call. So he texted me, he said, I have to go to the dentist Monday morning. I have an 8 o'clock appointment. So I won't talk to you Monday. I'll talk to you Tuesday. And he was not here Tuesday.
Mm. Wow.
You know? Yeah.
Wow. Just like
And so
that.
this is what I do, people. I get on here and I cry
Mm.
when I talk about things like that, but
Wow.
it is what it is. You know,
Wow.
I didn't know Saturday that when I didn't take his call, he wasn't going to be here for me to
You
talk
know,
to him.
I've seen that also this year, not with family members, but I've seen that with, actually, yes, with a family member when she passed. Um, the same thing. So life is precious.
Yeah.
We don't want to have any regrets. This is the hour to work. I think that uh, there's a few of us who have been taken out of the work environment for a while. I think it was a preparation, and God was teaching us how to depend on Him, because I mean, all that's going on is not over yet, and there may be some more fallout. But we know how to depend on God like never
Yeah.
before. You know, when you try to when the
Absolutely.
mailman comes and you got another bill and you're like, oh shoot, what am I gonna do? Okay, God, I'm trusting you now because you know I can't handle this. And then your bills are paid. You know, it's something to see how God moves. And I believe that we're gonna see a big move of God. Just because, like I like to say, listen, there is light in Goshen. There is, you know, we all have frogs jump, you know, like Goshen in Egypt. I live
Mm-hmm.
in Goshen. We're gonna be fine. You know, the plague, you know, he says the pestilence, people might fall on your left and your right, but it will not come near you. I'm holding on to that word. My family, for my loved
Absolutely.
ones.
I have a sticker on my door that says Psalm 91, no plague here.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly it. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Absolutely. I stand on Psalm 91 all the time. I think that is one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite, you know, that probably is my favorite psalm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I love Psalm 103, that he loads us up with benefits
That's
daily.
right.
You know, that's another scripture that I will pray
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So I think the pandemic really has just been a time of spiritual
That's
growth
right.
and
It should
maturity,
be. It should be.
you know?
Because if
Yeah, to really start to take your
because
mind.
everything we
Go ahead, you
learned is
go.
what we're supposed to be hanging on now. You know, if you know, knowledge is only wisdom if you've applied it. So now we're in the application phase. We better hang on because what's the alternative to not trusting God? What's the alternative? I can't even fathom it.
I can't either. I don't know where I would be without my faith right now. Honestly,
Oh,
you know, when you look at all that's going on around you, I don't know where I would be without my faith. I find so much rest and so much peace in my prayer time, in my prayer closet. I love to be in my room and close my door
mm-hmm,
and just shut away and pray.
mm-hmm.
You know, I look forward to that time when I can just go before the Lord and just pray and just cover my family and just and my cousin I was just talking about, she just joined. So it's so good to see you. I don't know what I would do without that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad, you know, and when I'm talking and I'm praying about gratitude, I'm grateful that I was born in this place where I have the freedom to worship.
Yes.
I have the freedom to open my
Hold
Bible,
on to it. Yes.
you know. Yeah. So, you know, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for my faith, and I just, you know, I continue to cover my family. That's so important to me. Yeah. You know, I don't know what else to say about that. It's an amazing experience. I think the journey that you and I have been on, just being able to pray and just spend time in fellowship. Just, you know, iron sharpens iron. And so I thank God that I think what God is doing in my life is God has switched my circle. Not that my circle was that broad, because I don't keep a lot of people around me, but I think God is bringing people close to me who are all prayer warriors.
Yes.
You know, that's, if somebody said, describe your circle, describe the people who are closest to you in your life, I would say they're all prayer warriors.
That's what you need.
You know,
You
I
don't
think the
need the
time is
drama.
over. Huh?
That's what you need. Who needs drama? We need to know that you got my back in prayer. I've got your back in prayer. What you need? I'm on my knees.
You know, the time for foolishness
It
is
sure
over.
is.
There's no time for the foolery. I don't have the patience for the foolery. I don't have the desire for the foolery anymore. And I just pray every day. I just say, Lord, I just want to be in divine alignment with your will. Reveal your will. What is it that you have for me to do? And let me do
That's
that.
right.
You know, let me do that. I don't have time for the foolishness. I'm 55 years old.
That's right.
You know, if I haven't outgrown the foolishness by now, shame
That's
on
right.
me.
Oh, yes. Right.
And so, right, shame on me if I'm about a bunch of foolishness at 55. There's no time for that. And so I'm just, you know, I'm just really saying, God, just put my life into divine alignment. Reveal your will. Let me do your will. Let me do it with the spirit of excellence.
That's right. That's right. No time for anything else at all. You know.
No. So God is just cutting. He's cutting away all of that.
Liz, yes.
Quote,
don't waste the blood. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just think it's a time for people to really get in line and get in order. And to start to take it seriously. Yeah, a spirit of excellence. I always pray for a spirit of excellence, you know, because you can't be out talking about God and you can't be posting about God and now you're half stepping. You know, you want to be a good you want to be a good representation, you know. And I was praying that the other day. I said, Lord, let me represent you well. I remember, you know, I was raised Catholic. Thank you for the compliment. I was raised Catholic, and I left the Catholic Church at 18 because, and this is me, this is not a dig at the Catholic Church. I'm just telling my experience. I have family members that are still Catholic. My whole line that I came up out of, we all grew up Catholic. So hear what I'm saying clearly, but not as an insult. I left the Catholic Church at 18 because for me, I came out of the Catholic Church dumb as dirt. I couldn't tell you anything. You could ask me questions about the Bible. I couldn't tell you anything. When I tell you I couldn't tell you anything, I knew there was Jesus. Noah had an ark. Jesus died on the cross. I couldn't really, honestly, I'm telling you the truth, I couldn't tell you much more than that. I couldn't tell you how many books of the Bible there were. I really couldn't tell you that there was an Old Testament, New Testament. Could not. And I spent every Sunday, we spent every Sunday in church. I had to go to catechism every Wednesday. Came out, I couldn't tell you anything. If you quizzed me on the Bible, Allison I wasn't going to pass it. I couldn't tell. I didn't know there was an Isaiah, Elijah. I couldn't tell you that. Malachi, the book of Malachi, what? I didn't know. And so I left out of frustration because I didn't know anything. And so I went on a search for more. because there's got to be more. And just like you and I had this conversation the other day, I said, when I was in high school, in junior high and high school, I never cut one class. I never cut class. I didn't mess up until I got all the way to college and then decided I
That's
didn't
not
want to
my
go to
story.
school, you know, the class. I did not cut class because my philosophy was, if I have to get up out of my bed, I'm just sharing this for you guys, and you guys might have kids that you can kind of put things in perspective. But my philosophy for Allison was, if I got to get up out of my nice warm bed and go to school. Back then, we went to school in the rain, snow, sleet, and hail. You didn't have a snow day because there was 2 inches of snow. If I had to get up out of my warm bed and go to school, I was going to make it work for me. And so I was at that place in my spiritual walk, you know. If I was getting up and going to church, how did I spend 18 years in church and I knew nothing? And so I went on a search for something deeper. But to kind of go back to where you were going with this and being a good representation, when I was church hopping, visiting different churches, trying to find a church home, I remember distinctly going into churches where the ushers and the greeters, the people at the door, were miserably mean.
Yeah.
And I remember going to churches and saying, if this is what this church is about, I don't want it. And so I would never go back, because if you have mean and nasty people at the door, that's not welcoming. That's not showing the love of Christ. That's not making me want to come serve your God. And that's not the God that I know. And so I remember it took me a long time before I found a church to settle in, because just the people in the church were not welcoming. And if that's the way you behave in the house of God, there's a problem with your leadership, that they allow that foolishness to go on. How can you be nasty and sucking your teeth and rolling your eyes at the door, and you have guests coming to visit your church? That just ought not be. And so I'm tying that into how we said we want to represent God well. I don't ever want to turn somebody off.
No,
right?
No, not at all. We want to
And you don't
represent.
ever, I think the church has such a black eye in general already. Like, people already think we're hypocrites, right? And so at this point in my life, if I'm going to go out and I'm going to post about God, then my life has to be in line with that. It can't be a lot of hypocrisy.
And if you bring that back to what's going on now with the COVID thing, you know, to circle back, hypocrisy looks like this. I say one thing about the word, and the other side of it is I'm running scared like the world. That literally is hypocrisy. We can't run scared
Right.
when the whole time. Now, fear will come in, but you got to say, you know what? Fear can't live here, because my Bible says this. But we cannot live in fear of anything when our neighbors, our friends, the people we work with or whatever, have seen you talk about the Bible. Now, why would I want your God if you're just as scared as I am? I thought you said he was bigger than anything, and my God could do anything, and we're in there singing these songs like my God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. Really? Well, you act like COVID's bigger than him now. We can't live that way. So the long and short of it is we have to trust God. Period. We have to trust him, stand on his word, lean on him, and link up with some good saints.
Right. You know, I thank God for, like I said, everybody in my circle, everybody is strong. You know, and so I don't have to look far. If I want to pray with somebody, or I need somebody to pray with me, I don't have to look far, because that's the circle that God has me in. You know, so I'm thankful for that. I really am. I'm thankful. And also the thing is, for us, we have to, and I say this as a correction for myself, you have to know the word, because when that fear comes in, you have to have the word to stand on, and you can't stand on the word if you don't know what it says.
That's right.
You know, and so that's where I have to do better.
Yeah. All of
You know,
us.
I have to do
All of
better
us.
in being deliberate
All of us.
in studying the word, not just putting on the audio Bible, but to sit down with the Bible
Amen.
and open it and just, you know, immerse myself in it and study the scriptures that way. It's nice to hear it. And a lot of times I play it while I sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to keep my iPad next to me and I'll put the audio Bible
Which
on
is
and I'll
good.
go to sleep to that.
That's good.
Yeah. But you know, I also have to read it while I'm awake.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's one of the other things in terms of strengthening us as believers is you have to know what it is you're standing on. You have to get in the
That's
Bible
right.
and know the Bible
Mm-hmm.
for yourself and not wait for Sunday morning for a pastor to teach a
Yeah. Well,
message. You have to know
yeah.
what the Bible says for
Well, this
yourself.
is the season now. You know, a lot of the church doors are closed. This is the season for us to be the church. We have to be
Mm-hmm.
that walking Bible. No, we don't see our friends all the time, but we walk into a grocery store. We may get a phone call or a text message or something, every opportunity. And do I always get it right? No. But he doesn't ask for perfection. He just wants me to surrender. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. But
Yeah.
I'm just glad. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me on.
You are so welcome. We have to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll find another topic
Mm-hmm.
that we think we can come on and you know, bless the people with. We just, you know, I just, for the people who don't know, who weren't on in the beginning, she is my prayer
Yes,
partner, and it's more than just a
it
prayer
is.
partner because we
There's
get on the
a kinship.
phone and we talk for hours. There's never a gap, and we don't
No
talk about
gossip.
foolishness. We're not gossiping.
Things
We're
of God.
talking about things of importance and things of substance. And then the other thing that we're both doing is we journal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's something that I've taken
That's a
on
good thing to do
recently
during this
is
time because when this is over with, you can look back at your journal and see the hand of God. Because you know, in your journal, you're just having conversation. So I encourage
mm-hmm,
everybody to journal during this time. I mean, that might be a book at the end of this. You know, it seriously might be a
absolutely.
book. If you got 10 people who have journaled this whole thing, they're living in different places. Let's put that together, and that's a book. You know, this is what 2020, 2021 look like. Oh, you know, and from
Yeah,
this woman, from a black woman's eyes, or from whoever, black male, white male, Asian, whatever. I think that's a that's an excellent book.
you know what, honestly what you just said is a
It's
great
a history
idea.
book for the
the different
generations to
the
come.
different the but the different perspectives, you know, how we saw the pandemic differently based on the color of our skin,
Hmm.
right, or our ethnicity. Because for the black community, we took it hard. We took a beating in terms of the death
And
rates.
at the beginning of the pandemic, the death rate was not just, well, even now, the death rate is not just it's not just COVID. There's some other things going on also. It is literally, um, this is just a spiritual attack, and I believe it's attack on the body of Christ. I truly believe that, and we have to see it for what it is and fight the way we know to fight, which is in prayer.
In
You know, that
prayer.
we're in a battle, literally, for our lives. And people think I'm extreme, but take it around and see. Take a look around and see what's really going down. This is a battle. You got more
Mm-hmm.
casualties now than you probably had in the Vietnam War. People dropping off. New York City got hit hard. You
Yes.
know, they were pulling out. A friend of mine has a dear friend of hers that worked for the city morgue, and he was picking up 300 bodies a day, and that was just him, not his coworkers for the city morgue. Come on,
Mm.
that's a war
Mm.
zone. You know.
Yeah, and you know, when you said that, what came to mind immediately when we pray is to cover people like that, because I can't imagine what that does to you mentally. to endure that. And I saw a picture the other day of a nurse sitting on the floor
I've
crying.
seen that too.
And I read this article that said a lot of the nurses are quitting. They're just walking off the job.
I've
They
seen
can't
it.
take it
I've
anymore.
seen
There's
it.
only so much stress and death
That you can tell.
you can take, you know, before that really starts to eat at you. So I think that's one of the
PTSD.
things in our prayer. Yes, you know, in one of our prayer points this week should be to cover the essential workers, to cover the healthcare workers, or to cover anybody who has to, the morticians, the people who have had to see the bodies. We read about it. It's one thing to read about it, because I can pick up an article, and when I'm done with the article, I can put it down. They don't get to put it down. And so I think I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that that's definitely a prayer point that we should add to our list, is to cover these people and to cover their mental health, because how long is it going to take? And can you even undo? You can't undo. Once you see something, you can't unsee it.
No, you're right.
You can't unsee that. And so when you watch body after body, you know, person after person perish, how do you undo that? You know, my former pastor had COVID, and he was in the hospital, and he was in ICU. And I remember when he got out of the hospital, he looked like the perfect picture of health to me. Thank God, you know, God raised him up. But I remember him saying that during the night, you just heard, like on the COVID floor, you just heard the screams from like the pain and everything. So for the patients who had to, you know, who were in an environment like that, the people who were on those COVID floors in the COVID wards, who are hearing the other patients around them screaming and crying in pain, and your families can't come in. You're there alone. You're there with the staff. And I'll tell you, my heart goes out to them, because back in 2002, 2003, I never get it right, I had meningitis. I think I told you this. Now this is, I feel for people with this whole virus, because it started with my daughter came home, my oldest daughter came home with what seemed to be, for her, it was a 24-hour bug. So she got it, 24 hours, she was well. Then my second daughter got it. She was sick for 24 hours. She was well. So this was like Friday, Saturday, the girls are well. Sunday, they're fine. Monday, I go to work. I feel absolutely fine. I remember this like this. I'm telling you, this is 2002, 2003. You see, I remember this like this happened last week. I can tell you the days of the week. I can tell you everything. And this is why I'm saying you can't undo some of these things. When they get into your mind, they're there. Monday morning, I go to work. I feel absolutely fine. 10 o'clock, I start to get a headache. 11 o'clock, my headache is stronger. 12 o'clock, I tell my boss, I gotta go. Now I'm in Manhattan, I gotta get back to Long Island. And the headache is intensifying like this. This is not a regular headache. I don't suffer from migraine, so I didn't know what didn't have a frame of reference to like a migraine. All I know is it was coming on hard and it was coming on strong. So now I got to get to Penn Station, and I'm like, what do I do? My head is throbbing. It feels like it's going to explode. I get to Penn Station, and I remember coming up out of the subway, and I get to the Long Island Railroad ticket area. And I remember just stopping and freezing because I didn't know how I was going to get to the track. I have my train ticket, but I'm in so much pain that I don't know how I'm going to walk from point A to point B. Then I get on the train, and I can't even now sit up on the train. I have to lay out across the seats. This is how fast it's intensifying. So during the ride, I'm just like passed out on the seats, and hey Malika, I get to my stop, and now I don't know how I can get up to get off the train. And I drag myself off the train, and I'm on the platform, and I'm just standing there, and I'm thinking, I know where my car is, but I don't think I can get my body now to the car. And so now I just stop, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, now what do? I can't. My head is like, feels like it's this big. So I get to the car and now I'm saying, oh my gosh, I can't get home. And so where my car was parked, I was parked by, I'm just going to give you a reference. I was parked by the ambulance corps. So you know where I live. So it was just a straight drive from there to my house. But I can't drive the car. So now I'm sitting in the car and I'm thinking, what do I do? I'm just going to let myself go missing. I'll just sit in the car. I just won't show up at home. They'll figure out I'm missing and then they'll come find me in the car. That's how bad. We're talking about hours. We're talking about from 10 a.m. now to 2 p.m. I went from feeling fine to I'm incapacitated. And I get home and then I have to find a doctor. And long story short, it turns out I had meningitis. To tie it all back in, I was in the hospital quarantined. Now, nobody's allowed in there. And to come in to see me, they had to suit up kind of like they suit up for
hazmat
COVID.
material.
Yeah, they're in hazmats to come in now because, right, I've got meningitis. Nobody wanted to deal with me. And so, they're coming in only because they have to, not because they want to. You have nobody there. You have nobody to advocate for you. You have nothing. You are at the mercy of whoever's on call that day. And I remember the IV started to back up in my arm. My arm was filling up with fluid. And I called for the nurse, and the nurse does not want to be bothered. So the nurse says to me, I'm in pain, but you can't really do much because your head, that pain is like nothing. It's like somebody ran over your head with an 18-wheeler truck. It's something that I would not really wish on anybody. But the nurse says to me, I'll wait for the next shift to fix it. There's nothing really I can do. Like, I can't really talk. I can't fight for myself. You can't really pick up the phone. You're just left by yourself in this room in isolation, quarantined. And if they want to take care of you, they take care of you. If they don't feel like being bothered, there's not much you can do. And so I said all of that to say, I feel for the people who are in these wards, in these COVID wards, and you don't have your family there, and you don't know whether you're going to be alive the next minute, and you're helpless. So my heart goes out to all of those patients because I remember being in that spot where I'm just locked away in another wing of the hospital, left for whatever,
I think my takeaway from what you're saying is that when we leave this call today, that each of us should just take some time to pray for the people who are in the hospitals, the workers as well as the patients, the people who are there alone. In fact, not just the COVID patients, because when my sister was in the hospital because of COVID, we couldn't even go in there, and she was not in there for COVID. So all these patients, we are. I think the country now is in a place where the body of Christ is most needed. We have to pray, period. Like Liz said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and heal their land. And that's what we need. That's just the bottom line. If you know how to have a conversation with God, this is the time for it. Seriously, because like you in the hospital alone, there's so many people in the hospital alone. And the nurses, the medical teams are burnt out. And there's other social issues that they're going through, personal issues. They may not even like you because your hair is straight or curly. People have personal things going on. You're subject to that as a patient left in there alone with no one to advocate. So, when we walk away from this today, I'm going to just stop and pray for people who are in the hospitals. God, don't let them get worse while they're in there. Let them come home alive, well, and healthy. And also pray for that there are no residual effects from this. Because some people have died a year later because of residual effects. My prayer is that for all my family and loved ones and people I know that have had COVID, that there will be no residual effects, no side effects, nothing, that they're completely whole. Nothing, no blood clot a year later, no, nothing. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
serious.
One of my friends that had COVID now has memory issues.
Yeah,
She's having problems with her
yes.
memory as a result of
Well,
having
my
COVID.
brother didn't know where he was. He was, he really had some psychological issues that were going on with his brain because of COVID. Didn't know where he was. He thought he was in California making salt. Thank God he's been back in his right mind now. But
Right.
I'm sure there's some people that never snap back. So, but I gotta cook dinner for my little guy here, so I can't hang too long. But it's been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
well, you know what? I'm usually on here from 8 to 9, and it's 9:30, so it is well past the time for me to say goodnight too. But thank you for
Thank you.
agreeing to come on and chat with me. I appreciated it, and I hope it blessed
Thank
everybody.
you.
Um, hey Malachi.
Come to visit me.
What was I gonna say? So, I'm on here every Sunday night at 8 o'clock, usually talking about hair. About every 3 months, I come on and I talk about
And you
something
see
different.
she's
But I
got
had
beautiful
said,
hair.
huh?
I said, and you see she's got
Thank,
beautiful hair.
thank you. But I had said in my heart of hearts, I said I want to come on once a month, do 3 weeks of hair, one weekend, 1 week of something different.
Well, I tell
And
you
so,
real quick, I tell you that one week you're on, you need to have my cousin Liz. Talk to her.
okay.
Man, Liz will give you some just good conversation, and she loves the Lord. You
Okay.
got I'm for
All
real,
right.
Liz.
Well, Liz, we'll have
She's
to
a
link up
powerhouse.
and talk. I would love to have you on. You know, I love to share this platform. I love it. I love to have people come on. I love, and when I do talks like this, I always offer people, whoever wants to come on screen, I'm always offering for people to come on screen. Most of the time, nobody takes me up, so it's me on here by myself talking, which I'm cool with that. But I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy being able to see and allowing the people that are listening and watching to see who I'm conversing with. So I love it. Like I said, I want to have one Sunday a month dedicated
Good.
to other topics, things other than hair, because there are people who would listen, but they're not going to tune in for hair, but they'll tune in for discussions and nights
Yeah.
like this. So I think it's important to open it up and give people an opportunity to hear different things and just, share their stories, because sometimes people chime in and they have great stories to share as
Well,
well.
thank you.
So, that's what it's all about. So thank you much. I'm going to call on you again to
Yes,
join me
definitely.
for another night. We talk about so many topics in the morning, so it's not going to be hard for us to come up with something else that we can come on and talk about. But think about it, and we will do it again. I enjoyed it, so
God
thank you
bless
so
you
much for
all.
being willing. Yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody who will watch the replay. For those of you I had to do my last minute plug. For those of you that are listening, ladies who are into hair and into natural hair care, feel free to join me on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock. I have a page called Maintaining My Crown. It's MANE, Taining My Crown. I have a Maintaining My Crown page on Facebook, Instagram. I have Twitter. I don't do Twitter too much, but come hang out with me. Follow my page if you'd like. I share information, tips, my struggle. I'm very honest about my hair journey and the struggles that I go through. So hence my rack of hair products over here. But I would love to have any of you join me as new followers, and then tune in again when we do nights like this. All right. So I'm going to say thank you again to Debbie. Thank you to everybody following. Like this, if this blessed you, like it. If you know somebody who would benefit from this, I'm going to ask that you please share it. Don't keep it to yourself, because there are so many people who are alone. And, you know, some people just need a boost in their faith. They need just somebody to prompt them to get back into prayer, to get back into their Bible and things like this. So hopefully this will bless somebody. So please do share.
Allison, Liz says put the info in the chat.
Okay, so Liz, you are on Facebook. So when this is over, I will absolutely put it in the comments. I'll put the hair thing in the comments, and then you can reach out to me. You can send me a private message. Debbie can hook us up. We can talk, and I'm happy to have you on as my guest as well. Okay, and I mean that sincerely.
All right, ladies.
All right, so thank you guys. And
thank you.
Tomorrow is Monday.
We're praying in the morning.
We're praying in the morning. You got it. All right, talk to you then. Good night,
night.
Malachi. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.